Afternoon all. A first great game for the match last night where Barnet, which I was playing for, we defeated Royston crushingly, actually 4.5 on the 5-board match, which was originally intended actually to be a 6-board match, but there was some issue at the start with some confusion. Anyway, so Cengiz playing on board 2 actually against K.Clark. And Kevin's quite a solid player, about 185 ECF. Cengiz is about 198, about the same grade as me and Alex really. We're all very much around the same grade at the moment. Well, Alex is slightly higher at 200 actually. Okay. But John Piggott is way above all of us at about 220 plus. So anyway, this is the board 2, but it was really well played by Cengiz. So d4, d5, after c4 the dreaded Slav defense. And so this is a great instructive lesson in how to crush the Slav actually. Knight f3, knight f6. Okay, nothing special so far. After knight c3, offering the c4 pawn. But if black takes that c4 pawn, of course white has lots of possibilities like bishop g5 or e4. And a lot of theory there. Black actually just created that rock solid Slavian triangle, and after e3 now this locks in the queen's bishop, but white's idea is to liberate later by playing for e4, so it's a very simple positional concept. e3, so bishop d6. Black also might be interested in liberating with e5 later. Bishop d3. Now knight Bd7. So at the moment it looks as though this is a very solid, position for both sides in the centre, the central control of both sides, where both sides potentially have liberating breaks like this. White generally doesn't want to play c5 because the bishop could slip back and then e5 will be even more powerful, hitting this part of the pawn chain, d4. So white's break will be e4 and black either usually c5 or e5. Both sides now castle, and white uses the liberating break first, e4, and I think this gives white a small edge. And the theory move after bishop e4 I believe is knight f6. Now what was played now is slightly risky, and it's instructive to see how it was punished. Very instructive in fact. f5. So you might think that black is going to liberate anyway with e5, and then maybe this pawn's going to move forward later and this bishop will be extended in scope, or even that this could be a basis for some sort of kingside attack later. So f5's got some logic to it. It might actually be played in your own over the board game. So let's see what Cengiz did. First he put the bishop on c2, and now black liberates, so e5. So both sides have taken the opportunity to try and liberate the pieces. And you would think, with this one, if actually d takes, this one's not going to be a problem for that much longer. Okay, but now we get a very, very interesting concept, tactical and dynamic concept, going for the king actually. Knight g5. So this introduces threats like queen h5. But also the knight lurking on these two squares, immediately threatening also to win the exchange. So that something has to be done about that. So takes, there might be knight e6. But also potentially c5 is a useful resource for bishop b3. And we've seen some of that ideas like that in the Alekhine Evolution of Style series. So what did black do? Well, he parried the e6 threat, knight f6. For the moment, Kevin's bishop's also hemmed in, but there comes this now resource c5, so opening up that diagonal, so making use of the knight on g5, that dangerous diagonal. However, bishop b3, you'd think, is black going to be safe after knight d5? Well, Cengiz took on e5, now plays rook e1, and you might think there isn't too much of an issue for black after bishop c7. There's a temptation here just to play knight e6, just grab the light square bishop. I'm not really sure, might be slightly better, but black could be solid. Actually, let's add an Ng5 for knight e6. The crushing move was actually played queen h5. It's crushing by far. There's a really crushing concept here, which was actually played out. Fantastic, really. Not knight e6. This is the way to get a huge advantage. It's unbelievable, actually, this concept. Queen h5. Okay. So threatening mate, and you might think this is easily parryable. Just play h6 to kick the knight. h6 was played, but now comes a devastating tactical blow. If I give you 10 seconds, I wonder if you can spot it. Well, you might want to stop the video. So 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, queen g6, just letting the knight be taken. Threatening mate again. So it's the knight's taken. But now bishop takes g5, and all of a sudden you see the full horror of the conception. Where does the queen go? This knight's pinned, it can't retreat. Where does the queen go? It can't go there because of rook e8. So it goes to d7, but now comes this fork, rook e7. Forking d7 and g7. So white's winning material, forcibly winning the queen. A brilliant conception starting from knight g5, really. So black gives up the queen and plays now rook f7. And it's continued with great accuracy by Cengiz. He plays bishop d6, getting rid of black's more important bishop. This one is a bit blocked in by this pawn on f5. So it gets rid of the dark square bishop and gets a nice pawn useful for hooking into these two key squares. Bishop d7, and now he takes the knight off, which is potentially quite useful. So we end up now material imbalances, queen and rook versus the two rooks and bishop. Now the queen is either 9 or 10, it depends really on the position. It's position sensitive, but it can be given, like the bishop can be 3 or 3.5, the queen could be like 9 or 10. So even if we give it 9 no and the rook 5, which is usually given 5 without any deviation, we'd end up with 14. Let's give black rooks 5 each, and this one 3 or 3.5 to be generous. So black's maximum would be 13.5. So white's materially slightly up, even if you gave the queen a slightly lower value. But what's going on in the position, that's really what counts. That's how you determine the true value of pieces. What is going on here? There's concrete threats that white has, because this pawn is also very dangerous. It's amplifying the impact of white's rook here after rook e1, because it's supporting the idea of rook e7, which is a very dangerous threat. Black plays rook c8. Okay, the rook can't move yet because of the back row issues. So white sorts out the back row, and at the same time it's an attacking move with h4. So he's free now to move the rook, and he's going to come in with h5, h6, and maybe h7 will be dangerous, because if the king moves then queen takes f7. So either hg or h7 will be dangerous threats. Okay, so rook c6 and now h5. Again, introducing this idea that h6 is going to be really dangerous. So here, black's getting overloaded. There isn't the move, by the way, rook e7, because rook takes e7 and there's a pin now. So rook c6 did plant a little trap there. But black must do something about this h6, though. He plays actually rook f6. And there comes another little devastating combination. If I give you 10 seconds, can you spot white's next move here? So 10 seconds starting from now. Okay. Cengiz gives up the rook e8 check. Because now that pawn is much more than a pawn. It's a really dangerous pass pawn about to queen, potentially. So rook f8. And now a nice little move. If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. d7. So the threat now is d8. The rook can't take the queen because of the recapture. Rook d6, and now can you spot the final move of the game? if I give you a further 10 seconds, or you might want to stop the video starting from now. Queen e7, and this is end of game. If the rook moves, then d8. Beautiful, beautiful chess. And believe it or not, the accuracy of this game and John Pigot's game in the previous video, checking on Chess Post, they're both above 90% accuracy. Hardly any errors, any significant errors. So congratulations to both players. My game, by contrast, was a bit scraggy from last night, but it's still at over 80% accuracy anyway. But I've got some blunders apparently. Well, yes, one or two key ones. But this was, I thought, a very clean-cut game and a very instructive game for playing a very, very simple pawn break in the centre against the dreaded Slav defence, which is ever so popular at the moment. So this system of just bishop d3 shows great venom in this game. Great venom indeed, that this liberating break can have such a huge impact on black's king safety, especially when black plays f5, which is a bit too ambitious. You know, knight f6 is the move. So this is potentially weakening this diagonal, because that pawn is a shield really on this diagonal if you think about it. So when black plays for e5, this diagonal is more sensitive than usual. And usually you wouldn't want to play c5 at all on general principles, but it's the specifics here which count. After knight g5, there's specific threats on h7 which need to be parried. And now this c5 really, with this combination in mind, is really just fantastic. So check, taking on e5, putting pressure immediately on the e file. So e8 and e7 key points to be used by that rook pretty soon. Queen h5, forcing a knight sack basically, giving black a whole knight after queen g6, because the black queen is about to be checkmated in effect after hg, bishop takes g5. The queen's only got one square here. Bishop takes h2, Jiggers was saying, had to be calculated. Let's have a quick check actually. Bishop takes h2. Does it do anything? Maybe that was black's best shot. White could play king h1 here. If he takes, I wonder if he's still better. Not so much better because queen c7. But then f4 white is a little bit better. But king h1 here. And now if queen c7, still this idea of rook e7, you know, forking the queen and the pawn. So not taking doesn't give queen c7 as check. So it would still be winning the queen here. That's a key variation actually. Okay, so that wasn't played. So queen d7 was played. The queen is virtually checkmated, has to give up, and now we get this imbalance of material. So you have to factor in the specifics of the position to determine the queen's value versus the two rooks. The better bishop of black is removed after bishop d6. The strong knight is removed. The one white rook goes to that central e file. Now the back rank is removed as an issue, and not only that, an issue thrown at the black king, another issue, h5, h6, with the options of hg or h7. And now we see h5, and now black is compelled to do something about this h6 advance. So he plays rook f6, and this leads to another mini combination, which continues the devastation, leading black to a totally helpless position now after d7. So rook d6, queen e7, end of game. Very elegant game indeed. I hope you'll agree. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the King's Crusher channel. It's free and you'll be notified of any new videos. Thanks very much.